lied in court. She lied in court in this very courtroom on that witness stand on 2 separate days. She had several opportunities to decide that she was going to be truthful about a number of things, not the least of which was her relationship with Hemi Newman, the man that murdered her husband. But she chose, and I highlight, put in the box and underscore the word chose, she chose to continue to lie before that jury, Your Honor. Here we are a couple of years later, and looking back, we understand that when she spoke with the police initially, they were trying to apprehend or catch her husband's murderer, Hemi Newman. And we understand that motive is important in any murder case, quite frankly. And she lied knowingly about, and these are the jury's findings, she lied knowingly about Hemi Newman's motive to murder her husband. A jury, a couple years later, was trying to determine Hemi Newman's mental state. And she sat in front of that jury, and I don't have to go on because Your Honor was here. He heard the last trial when Mr. Newman was tried, and the issue was not whether or not Mr. Newman actually murdered Rusty Sneiderman, the defendant's husband. The issue was his mental state. And part of the defense was whether or not he was delusional, or the question rather was whether or not he was delusional. And the primary issue of his delusion was his relationship with the defendant, which quite frankly made this defendant, her testimony in front of that jury, very important. And so when she sat in front of that jury and told them that there was no relationship, told them that nothing romantic had happened in between her and the defendant, she misled that jury, and she misled them in a material fashion. It wasn't something that was just collateral. It wasn't something that was just a personal issue between her and Hemi Newman and her family. It was something material. It went to the heart of the matter of the last trial that we had here, the trial of the state of Georgia versus Hemi Newman. And I say all that to say, Your Honor, that the truth matters. And, you know, not lecturing Your Honor, because I know Your Honor understands these things, but, you know, our criminal justice system is built on the truth. When people talk to the police, when people talk to juries, we expect that they're going to tell the truth. The truth matters, and lies have consequences. And that, Your Honor, is what has brought us here before you, with the defendant standing guilty of several counts of a 13-count indictment, Your Honor, 9 counts, in fact. The state's recommendation would be on count 1, hindering 5 years to serve concurrent with count 2, which is concealment, Your Honor. So I would ask that count 1 and count 2 run concurrent. On count 3, Your Honor, which is false statement, the state's recommendation would be 5 years, and we would ask for consecutive treatment to count 1 and count 2 on count 3. On count 6, Your Honor, which is a count of perjury, we would ask that the defendant receive 10 years to run consecutive to count 1, count 2, and count 3 on count 6. On count 8, Your Honor, which is a false statement, we would ask for the defendant to receive 5 years to run consecutive to the aforementioned counts. On count 9, Your Honor, that is perjury by operation of law. That would merge into count 6. On count 10, that is false statement. We would ask for concurrent treatment to the aforementioned counts. On count 11, Your Honor, that is perjury. That would merge by operation of law into count 6. On count 12, Your Honor, that is perjury as well, and that would merge by operation of law into the aforementioned perjury counts, Your Honor. I have nothing in aggravation to offer the court except for what the court has witnessed, and that's the defendant's conduct in the previous trial, and also what the court has seen at the trial before him in this particular case. I do, however, have a member of the Sneiderman family, and if the court would so indulge us, I would like to have Mr. Sneiderman, Mr. Steve Sneiderman, give a statement in aggravation to the court, if that's okay or appropriate.
You may.
Yes, Your Honor.
Here's from a witness from the state and the defense. You come on up, sir. You'll be sworn in by Deputy Garrett. Have a seat on the witness stand. Please follow Deputy Garrett's instructions.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you shall give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, second. I do.
My name is Stephen Sneiderman, S-T-E-V-E-N. Sneiderman is S-N-E-I-D-E-R-M-A-N.
You may proceed, Mr. James.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is the second time that I've had the duty to speak to you on behalf of my parents, Marilyn and Don Sneiderman, as well as my wife, Lisa, and my daughter, Samantha, about the impact of the crimes committed around the death of my brother, Rusty Sneiderman. The last time I stood before you was to address the acts of the evil man who pulled the trigger that took my brother's life in such a brutal fashion. Now I find myself in the very unusual position of returning now to speak about the betrayals of another person and the devastation and havoc she has intentionally inflicted on our lives. First and most importantly, I want to remind you about the one person that some of the parties in this case seem to have forgotten about, my brother, Rusty Sneiderman. It is painful to realize that for most, he is just another victim, someone that they heard about some time ago, that guy who got shot at the daycare. His life, however, was so much more than that. He was special. Rusty was a caring, thoughtful person who always put his own needs second and looked for a way to make your life better, whether through charitable work, professional networking, or just being there to give you a hand with something that needed to be done. He wanted things to be better for you, to help lift you up. How cruel that those he tried to help betrayed him so greatly. Rusty was smart and hardworking, relentless. He achieved success at every level of his life. Sometimes it was through intellect, but when it wasn't enough, he would simply keep working until he got it done. There was always time for one more call, one more email, one more internet search. How cruel that he had the misfortune to come across these sinister characters who found the only way to stop him. Rusty was a good family man. He pushed himself to provide for his wife and his family, and he succeeded, achieving more by age 36 than most achieve in a lifetime. It wasn't about the stuff, though, Your Honor. It was about building the best possible life for his family. How cruel that such good fortune wasn't enough for some people. Rusty was a devoted son, brother, and uncle. 800 miles meant nothing to him. He wanted to be a part of our lives up in Cleveland, and he wanted us more involved down here. Whatever the issue, he could solve it and make it work. How cruel that someone thought he was the problem. Rusty was a wonderful, devoted father. Sophia and Ian were always at the forefront of his thoughts. His smile, that radiant smile, was never bigger or brighter than it was playing with his kids or teaching them about something they saw. He had an ability to discipline them good-naturedly, lovingly rousing a child who wasn't listening by simply calling, "Hey, Fred," which always brought them back to task with a smile. It must be in the delivery, since it's never worked for me. He has had so much love and wisdom that he was committed to give to his kids. How cruel that someone who should have known better than anyone else took this path instead. I could go on and on. He was irreplaceable, and the void he leaves is vast. Make no mistake, Rusty Sneiderman was a special, special person, Your Honor, and that's something that we must not lose sight of as we conclude this process. Let's compare Rusty to the defendant. She thinks she is special, but she is not. She's a common criminal, lawfully convicted in this court of 9 separate felonies. What have we learned about her? She lied, just like we always knew it, just like everyone knew it. She lied to her family. She lied to her friends. She lied to Rusty. Then Rusty was brutally taken from us, and she lied some more. She lied to her family. She lied to her friends. She lied to us. She lied to the police as they were investigating his murder. Then they arrested her boss and lover, and she lied some more. She lied to her family and her friends. She lied to us. She lied to the police as they were building a case to convict the shooter. She lied to the prosecutors who would seek justice for Rusty. Then they tried her boss and her lover, and she lied some more. She sat in this very chair, Your Honor, and she lied to her family and her friends. She lied to us. She lied to the jury that would decide the shooter's fate. She lied to you, Your Honor. Time and again, it was more important for this criminal to protect herself and her lover rather than find and convict her husband's killer. We knew it then, and we know it to a legal certainty now. These were not little lies. These were covering her role in the death of Rusty Sneiderman, her husband, the father of her children. Her pathetic narcissism would be almost comical if it weren't tied to the death of such a special person. Most criminal conduct impacts numerous people, and this particular criminal is certainly no different. Her repeated and willful disregard of the truth for so long has left a wide swath of destruction in its path. It has devastated multiple families. Obviously, Rusty paid the ultimate price for her conduct. Without her lies and betrayals prior to his death, Rusty would still be with us and his children. For that conduct, she will have to answer to a higher authority someday. But here in your court, Your Honor, we urge you to keep the results of her conduct that led her to lie in the forefront of your deliberations. A very special man is gone because of her actions, and all she can do is lie about it again and again. Self-preservation is the only thing on her mind. Look at my parents, Your Honor. I know you know who they are. You've seen them here every day in the trial of the shooter, and every day of this trial as well. While they carry themselves with the uncommon composure and dignity that comes from a place of strength I cannot comprehend, make no mistake, they have been tortured by this common criminal for nearly 3 years. They were forced to bury their son, a burden no parent should ever have to face, and then forced to relive the trauma over and over again, day after day, as a direct result of the repeated and willful lies of this common criminal. To have to sit through one trial is an incredible burden. To have to sit through a second time, all because this liar did not want to be held accountable for her conduct, is simply cruel. My wife and I have faced a similar pain, Your Honor. The loss of my brother has been devastating to me. I still want to talk to him, to bounce ideas off of him, to hear that goofy laugh, but I won't get that chance again, ever again. That is my problem, Your Honor, and I have to deal with it, but my family has to deal with me. I'm blessed that Lisa never gave up on me the way the defendant gave up on Rusty. But that doesn't make either of our lives any easier. Unlike my parents, my wife and I aren't retired, so we've had to juggle 2 careers, our daughter's needs, and a world that doesn't understand why we haven't moved on, while we try to heal and cope with our new realities. But we have not even had the chance to start to heal because of this criminal. Her repeated and willful lies have meant that every day is filled with another challenge, another Google alert, another pleading, another question, another explanation to my parents. As if our family has not suffered enough, we must be subjected to one final indignity. Before we can have final sentence from this court, Your Honor, we will be forced to watch a parade of this criminal's pathetic enablers come forward again and demand special treatment for her. They will be up here shortly to do what they have been told to do by this convicted felon. Consistent with her past conduct, this criminal, this master manipulator, will use anyone to say anything to let her slither away from responsibility. They likely will tell you this is somebody else's fault, or the Andrea we knew could never do such a thing, or simply beg for your mercy. Most likely, however, they will stress to you her amazing parenting skills and how much her children need her. Being a mom does not create a lower standard of conduct for people. If anything, it should be a higher standard. The defendant's callous disregard for Rusty's life and the prosecution of her lover, the evil man who took him away from his kids, shows how she fails to meet any standard. Parenting is a privilege, not an excuse. A real parent puts themselves between their children and harm. They do not cower behind them and use them as a human shield to protect them from the consequences of their own actions. Finally, I expect the defendant herself to finally speak in her contrived, soft-spoken voice. How many times has our family been forced to hear her defender say, just wait till she tells her side of the story?
Miller, I'm sorry. I'm going to object. I mean, he's certainly entitled to
Yes, sir.
talk about whatever impact this has had upon his family, and I have no objection and I have tried to give him a great degree of latitude, but he is simply making an argument and drawing conclusions, and I do not believe that is appropriate, and I am going to object.
I'm going to sustain that objection. Mr. Sneiderman, you are allowed to tell me the impact it has upon your family. I'm going to sustain the objection that's made by Mr. Clegg at this point in time.
Very well, sir.
Anything else you want to tell me at this time, sir?
It's been over 1,000 days since Rusty's death. This means that this defendant has had more than 1,000 chances to do the right thing, to come clean and make sure that justice was done for Rusty and his children. Yet for 1,000 days, she's done no such thing. Instead, more than 1,000 times, she looked at the situation and made a conscious, willful, and criminal decision to continue to lie. More than 1,000 times, she decided to put herself and everyone around her, including my family, through another day of pain and suffering, another day of questions instead of answers, another day of conflict instead of healing. More than 1,000 times, she stared at the choice between right and wrong and made the same choice again and again and again and again. We will always be left with the question of why. Why would someone go to such lengths to avoid the truth if she didn't have something else to hide? Why would someone continually deny these facts in the face of such stark evidence to the contrary? Why would someone cling to these lies even if it was clear that such actions were to her own detriment? Common sense tells you that there's only one rational answer. The question of why she repeatedly chose to protect her lover and herself instead of pursuing justice for Rusty.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to interpose the same objection.
All right. Mr. Sneiderman, I'm going to sustain that objection. I have no problems in listening to anything else you want to tell me about the impact upon your family. It was a valid objection. I sustained it.
Very well, Your Honor.
Anything else you want to tell me, sir?
I have many more things that I want to tell you, but I doubt that they would satisfy Mr. Clegg. So on behalf of the entire Sneiderman family, we thank you for the opportunity to be heard.
Mr. Sneiderman, don't make it personal. The lawyers just stood up, made an objection. Don't refer to him by name. Anything else you want to tell me about the impact upon your family? I'll give you as much time as you need.
On behalf of the entire Sneiderman family, we thank you for the opportunity to be heard on this
One
matter.
second. Mr. Clegg, any questions?
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Stand up, Mr. Clegg, if you're going to address this court.
I apologize, sir. I have no questions, sir.
All right. You may come now, sir. Mr. James, anything else as far as on family impact?
No, Your Honor. The evidence is before the court. The state's recommendation, just to be clear, and I'm not going to go through how it's structured again. The court was taking notes. We would just ask for, in total, Your Honor, 20 years to serve. I believe this is an egregious offense, not just against Rusty Sneiderman and the Sneiderman family, but also against the criminal justice system. And we would ask the court to follow the state's recommendation, and that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Mr. James. Mr.
Your Honor, Mr.
Clegg.
Morgan is going to call a number of folks who want to make a statement on behalf of Mrs. Sneiderman, and then I will make a final summation.
You may.
Thank you, sir.
We just would like to proceed in that honor, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Your Honor, the defense first calls Tracy Carish. There are a number of people who asked to speak. We've whittled it down to a handful of friends and family members. Ms. Carish.
Come on up. You'll be sworn in.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may proceed. Please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Tracy Carish, and that is spelled Traceycarisch.
Ms. Carish, is there a statement you would like to make to the court on behalf of Andrea Sneiderman?
Yes.
If you would, please go ahead.
I have known Andrea for almost 20 years now. And I'm sorry, I'm really nervous.
All right, take your time.
Okay. I saw at the age of 18, we were in college and we're all going to the bars and having fun, and I saw this woman that was already hardworking and dedicated and compassionate, and I've watched all this unfold, just astounded. And I'm here today as her friend to ask for leniency, and so many people will tell you that she is an amazing mother. I've seen it firsthand, and I know that her children need her. But I want to talk about something else that sometimes people forget in this. We forget the reason why we have this penal system. We're here as citizens and we pay these taxes to send people to jail because either we need to protect ourselves from them because they're going to hurt us in some way, or we need to teach them how to be a functioning member of society, to not do bad things that lead to problems. And neither of these things apply to my friend. Neither of those things apply to her. I've watched her for 20 years just give to her kids and her family and her community. She knows how to be this functioning member of society. She's hardworking and organized and bright and talented, and I know what she's capable of doing, and it saddens me, certainly as her friend, but it saddens me as a citizen if we have a penal system that is structured in this way to create this vengeance and competition and how long can we put somebody away, not because it's to the betterment of us, but it's because we're playing with people's lives and we think that this is, we should put her away because, well, people are mad and people are blind with grief and people don't all fully understand the situation. I am asking for leniency because I know what she can contribute to this society. And I hope that you see that she can be a tool and a resource in community service, not just because she has to, but because she wants to. And I want to see her have that chance through this entire process. When this first started, I visited her in DeKalb County Jail, and most people would be just focused on themselves. How am I going to get out of this? How am I going to, fix this situation? She's talking to me about how can I find the light in this to make something good come out of this situation? And that continued to come up over and over again over the past 2.5 years. Yes, I'm keeping Rusty's memory alive, but there has to be something bigger. What am I supposed to do with this? How do I take this experience and know something that other people don't know and use it to make the world a better place? And if we put her in jail for 20 years, we're all losing. We're all losing. And so, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Take your time, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry.
That's fine. Take your time.
I've seen, and all of us are here because we've seen the wonderful things that she's brought to the world. And I know that I've seen her eyes be opened through this experience. And she has this mission. She has this mission to do good things, and I want to see her do those good things. I'm so sorry. I didn't think I would do this. I just hope that you can see from all the people that will come up here today, that this is a woman. She knows how to be a protective member of society. She knows how to do good things and find a way to plug her in and to let her use this experience to do those good things that I know she can do. That's all I have to say.
Mr. James, any questions?
No, sir.
All right. You may come down, ma'am. Call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Defense calls Andy Lippman. Andy.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. ABC. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Sure, it's Andy Lippman, and that's A-N-D-Y L-I-P-M-A-N.
And Mr. Lippman, do you have a statement you would like to give on behalf of Andrea?
I do.
Would you please go ahead and give His Honor that statement?
Sure. Dear Judge Adams, usually, first of all, I apologize for writing all this down, but I wanted to make sure I have all this and I don't forget anything that I wanted to say.
That's fine.
Let me also say that I am up here on my own. No one asked me to be up here. I'm doing this because of my support for Andrea. My name is Andy Lippman, and I have known Andrea since 2008. I respect the verdict handed down yesterday, and I know we will also be appealing it. I'm here to speak on Andrea's behalf and ask for some leniency in regards to her sentence. My wife and I became friends with Rusty and Andrea back on Thanksgiving of 2008, and we were the best of friends after that. Rusty and Andrea were volunteers at our charity event, Wish for Wendy. to benefit cystic fibrosis, a terminal disease that I also have. I will always be grateful for them for all of their support through that. But my words today are not to benefit me, nor are they even to benefit Andrea. They are to benefit Andrea and Rusty's children. In November of 2010, Ian, who was only 2 at the time, and Sophia, who was 5, were devastated by the untimely loss of their father, one of my best friends, Rusty Sneiderman. After that time, Andrea did an amazing job as a nurturing mother to be with them, to support them, and to love them. Even though her life was often in the media, Andrea made sure her children were not taken advantage of. Yesterday, Sophia and Ian received more devastating news. Their mom would be incarcerated and away from them for some time. Sophia was a wreck, were the words that many of our friends used. Sadly, Ian asked if his mom was dead too. Andrea has already spent 3 weeks in jail and nearly a year in house arrest for charges that were dropped days before her actual trial. Sophia will be 8 years old Sunday, which according to every article I read last night is a very impressionable age for children. Ian is only about 3 years younger. They are already without a father. I ask that you please show Ian that his mom is still alive and that you give Sophia a birthday gift that is beyond any other she could possibly ask for. Please allow their mother to spend her sentence at home. Please allow her to guide them and prevent them from being exposed to the media outrage. Please allow these children to have their mother in their lives. Please allow them the opportunity to learn from their mother what an amazing person their father was. Every year on the children's birthday, Andrea bakes them a cake. Please allow this tradition to continue. Please allow Sophia some semblance of a happy birthday. I promise you that you won't regret your decision. Thank you for your time, and thank you for considering this. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Lippman. Mr. James, any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may come down. Call your next witness.
Defense calls Elizabeth Stansberry, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I retrieve some tissues, please, sir?
Where's my? Yes, you may.
Thank you so much.
There's a box right here, Mr. Petrie, if you need some.
Sir, now raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm that the testimony you shall give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? You may proceed. Please state the spelling name for the record.
Elizabeth Stansberry, Elizabeth Stansbury.
Ms. Stansberry, would you like to make a statement on behalf of Andrea?
Not only Andrea, but her children today.
If you would, please go ahead.
November 18, 2010 changed the lives for so many people. And through those 2 years, Sophia and Ian never knew the struggles, the media, the investigations, the trial, any cases. They continued to thrive in school, develop appropriately, without a father. That has always been Andrea's #1 concern. Last night I got over there and I sat down with Ian, who had just been given a bath by Grandpa, and he said, "Miss Elizabeth," which is what he always calls me. He's like, "I can't see my mommy, but she's not dead." And I said, "Yes, but we can talk to her on the phone." He's like, "Can I FaceTime her?" And I said, "Well, I don't think we have Wi-Fi." And we continued to chat about all the people that love Sophia and Ian. Those are the 2 biggest victims out of all of this. Through the past year, she has been home with those kids. Those children do not know a night without her. And she continued, both Sophia and Ian, to thrive last year amidst all that was going on in her own life. This will have irreconcilable damages on those 2 children when all she's ever wanted to be is a good mother and to pick up the pieces. Before November 18th, 2010, she was very involved almost on a daily basis at school with those children. and I feel that she can give back to her kids, to the community, and hope, Your Honor, that you take this into consideration, that she can do good, but most importantly, Sophia and Ian do not need to lose another parent.
Thank you. Mr. James, any questions?
No, sir.
All right. Ms. Stansberry, you may come down. Thank you. Call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Defense calls Andrea Andrea Lippman, Judge.
You may.
Turn around, raise your hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Raise your hand. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Andrea Lippman, Andrea Lippman.
Ms. Lippman, would you like to make a statement on behalf of Andrea Sneiderman?
I do.
If you would, please go ahead.
Dear Judge Adams, I'm here today to let you know I respect the system. I respect what happened in this courtroom, and so does Andrea. She has been here every day. She has shown up every day. The system that she thought would protect her still has a chance. She has, and I'm going to use the district attorney's terms, chosen to stand by her words and the truth, and chosen to tell you everything that she knows is the truth. I've known her since 2008. We became best of friends, confidants, almost like sisters. And I trust her with my children, hands down, any day of the week, month, or year. I trust her with my family. I trust her completely. And for me, that's very hard to do. So for me to trust like that is unheard of. I ask you for leniency. I ask you to give Sophia and Ian a chance at life with her, at least one parent. And with the many, many conversations I had with Rusty, he wants them to be with her. And this is not what he would want. It's not. So I ask you to please consider what has happened and to really understand. Andrea is here. She has gone through this process. She sees it. And she was here, and she was, I know we're going to be appealing, but Sophia and Ian need her more than you know. More than you know. Oh, that's all I
Mr.
have.
James, anything else? Any questions, Mr. James?
No, sir.
You may come down, Mr. Lippman. Thank you. Mr. Morgan, who else?
Yes, Your Honor. Defense calls Jocelyn Shorvitz.
Solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. Raise your hand. You may proceed. Please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Jocelyn Shorvitz, Jocelynschorvitz.
Ms. Shorvitz, do you want to make a statement on behalf of Andrea this morning?
I do.
If you would, please go ahead.
Your Honor, thank you for taking the time to hear from me today. My name is Jocelyn Shorvitz, and I am a close friend of Andrea's. I would like to acknowledge the Sneiderman family. A loss of a son is an unthinkable tragedy. The loss of a husband, a friend, a father is unthinkable. You are all victims. Your Honor, I'm proud to call Andrea Sneiderman my friend. The person portrayed here is not the person I know. Andrea is a good person, a respected person, a loved person. I watched her go through the pain of losing her husband to murder, and I watched how after the first year of Rusty's death, she was barely a shell of a person. I watched how hard she worked as she gained strength and courage to testify against her boss because she so desperately wanted justice for Rusty. And for the past year, I sat by her side as she tried to make sense of what has happened while she was under house arrest. But she stayed strong and she stayed focused solely for the sake of her children. I'm an American, and as such, I believe in our judicial system. I stand before you recognizing the decision of the jury. I also recognize that the jury agreed with Andrea on something she has never wavered on, that she had no prior knowledge of Rusty's murder, that she had no involvement in Rusty's murder. Did she make some mistakes over the past few years? Yes, she did. Was she naive? Yes. Did she play a part or have a hand in her husband's murder? No. Your Honor, I am here today not to make excuses, but to beg you to look at the fact. She has never been in trouble with the law before. She has been found guilty of nonviolent crimes. A jury of her peers have found her not guilty on the most serious charges that would have implied that she had knowledge of Rusty's murder. Rusty's murderer was ultimately brought to justice. The jury determined Andrea withheld information and perjured herself that caused a delay in Rusty's murderer's apprehension. Whether Andrea's statements or omissions postpone justice is ultimately a matter of speculation. Your Honor, I beg you to think of Sophia and Ian. Their father was a victim of unimaginable act of violence. A family. Both sides have been ripped apart. Andrea is their world, and they are hers. They need each other to heal. Ian is just 4 and needs his mother now more than ever. Sophia is just turning 8 and has always had her mother there to do her homework with her, to eat family dinners together, and to read her to sleep. I wish you could meet them because they're amazing, and it's because of the love and dedication Andrea has always provided for them. You are the one person in this room who can say enough is enough. The scale of justice must be balanced. The punishment must fit the crime for which one is convicted of in a court of law. Therefore, Your Honor, we beg you for justice. We beg you for leniency. We beg you for leniency in the name of justice and for the sake of Ian and Sophia. Thank you for taking the time to hear from me today.
All right. Mr. James, any questions?
No, sir.
You may come down, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Morgan, anyone else?
Just a couple, and then Mr. Greenberg, Your Honor. Paul Sims.
Come on up, sir. Follow the instructions of Deputy Garrett.
You solemnly swear and affirm that the testimony you shall give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Yes. And roll your hands before you see. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Paul Sims, P-A-U-L-S-I-M-S.
Mr. Sims, are you here on behalf of Ms. Sneiderman?
I am.
And would you like to make a statement to the court?
I would.
If you would, please go ahead, Mr. Sims.
I've been friends with Rusty and Andrea for 14 years now. 13 years, excuse me. And would probably say I was closer friends with Rusty than Andrea because we did a business together, we went to school together. And I haven't seen Andrea in over a year through all these proceedings. But despite all that, I still believe that Rusty would want Andrea to be with her children. I saw them as parents together. I saw them taking care of their kids individually. And I would ask for whatever leniency this court can give. I don't believe that Andrea going to jail will help the children who are the victims, regardless of anyone's beliefs about Andrea. And I know that her going to jail won't bring Rusty back. And I know that her going to jail, while it may feel a void for vengeance in some people's hearts, won't help the families, either the Sneiderman family or the Greenberg family. And I would ask you, Your Honor, to show mercy and let her have as much time with her children as possible.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sims. Mr. James, any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Sims, you may come down. Thank you, sir. Ms.
Yes,
Morgan,
Your
call
Honor,
your next witness.
the defense will call Candace Klein. Ms. Klein.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you? May you may be seated. Please state the spelling name for the record.
It's Candace Kalin. It's Keilin. I haven't planned to say anything, and I'm really, really nervous. But I look at all these faces in this courtroom, and you need to know that this community has been torn apart by what has happened. This is not a usual situation, and through this, both families have been the victims. Parents have lost a child on two sides, and a wife has lost her husband. And no matter what we do and no matter what we say, we cannot bring Rusty back. But we can preserve for the children. We can try to make sense of something so tragic, to help these two little children. They are so little, and they are happy. I have not been able to see the families, and I did see the children on Thursday night for the first time, and I walked away with such a happy feeling. These children were laughing and giggling and playing peekaboo with me because nothing in their world had changed from where they had started to heal. When Rusty died, the night that he died, I was in the house of the Sneidermans, and I was bathing both Ian and Sophia, and Andrea walked into the room shell-shocked, and she looked at me and said, "My children don't deserve this. My children don't deserve this life. Please, we have one chance to try and make things right." As grown-ups, we make, well, hopefully we don't, but we sometimes do make bad errors in judgment. We are all human. This is not a Lifetime movie. We don't have a script in front of us. Please, Judge, for the children. They're so little, they need their mommy. They already lost their dad. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Mr. James, any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. All right, next witness.
Your Honor, the defense calls Andrea's father, Herb Greenberg.
You may come up, sir.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give this court should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you? May be seated. Please state the spelling name for the record.
My name is Herbert Greenberg, H-E-R-B-E-R-T, G-R-E-E-N-B-E-R-G. Your Honor, this is a very difficult situation for me as Andrea's dad, so just, I hope you bear with me, and I'll do the best I can in making my presentation.
No problem. Take your time, sir.
Your Honor, as you're aware, I'm Herbert Greenberg, Andrea's father. I totally understand the jury's verdict and respect it, and we will appeal it. I am here to ask for a sentence that imposes no time in custody, since the sudden tragic loss of my beloved son-in-law at the hands of a malicious murderer. Our entire family's lives have been filled with sorrow. Rusty was like a son to me. Our families took trips together, worked on home projects together. I taught him a lot relative to home repair. They invited us to move to Atlanta so that could be closer and help out with child rearing activities. We jumped at the chance to do that. We wanted to help them grow as a family. We realized they had goals, and having us here would be very helpful for them in terms of making their family grow in the right direction. Sophia was born prematurely, and we assisted Rusty and Andrea by visiting the hospital every day while she was close to dying. A delusional murderer took Rusty from us. Yes, my daughter might have not said the right thing at the right time to the right people, but grief overcame her, grief overcame us, and to this day she and I are still grieving the loss of Rusty, the love of her life. Andrea has been a rock for the children, as many of her friends have said. The children were devastated as a result of the 3 weeks that Andrea was wrongly jailed for murder. To remove her from their environment for any extended period of time will have tragic consequences on their growth and development. The children need their loving, caring, and gentle mother. Society will not benefit with the incarceration of Andrea. The children will be exposed to more unnecessary tragedy. Your Honor, please permit a sentence that does not include incarceration. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberg. Mr. James, any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
I have 1 second, Your Honor.
You may take as much time as you need.
Your Honor,
Kelly, we're back on the record. Yes, sir.
as the court is aware, a defendant has a right to make an elocution to the court prior to sentencing, and Ms.
I was going
Sneiderman,
to give her that opportunity as soon as you stop calling witnesses.
we'll stop calling witnesses, Judge.
All right.
And Your Honor, Mr. Clegg, lead counsel, will give the concluding remarks.
All right. I was going to see if she wanted to make a statement at this point in time. Do you want her to do that before?
However you want me to, or however you would prefer me to do it, I will probably just go ahead and make my argument and then let her make whatever statement, Your Honor, and then...
Oh, sure. You may proceed.
Judge, I guess I'm about to start crying, so I'll talk about some mundane legal stuff first.
You may.
And maybe I won't. Mr. James is correct, Your Honor, as to the perjury counts. They merge as a matter of law. While she has been convicted of, I believe, 4 perjury counts, I believe she can only be sentenced, she can be sentenced as to 1, and the remaining counts would merge into that particular count. So while there are 4 perjury counts, and in theory she could get 40 years to serve, I believe, practically speaking or legally speaking, she can only be sentenced to 10 years to serve on those. As to the false statements, there are actually 3 counts that she was convicted of. 2 of them occurred on January the 5th during the course of the interview, which we had occasion to see here in this courtroom. There is no specific authority in regards to that, but it would be the contention of the defense, and I will admit that we are asking the court to, quite frankly, create new law in this, but since these 2 of the false statement counts were all part and parcel of the same statement, that those, I believe, should merge for purposes of sentencing. Those would be counts 3 and 10. Count 8 was a false statement made on the,
One second, Mr. Clegg, you're saying count 3 and 10 should merge as a matter of law?
into count 10, they were both made at the same time, and again, using the analogy of the perjury law, which says that if an individual is administered an oath and then makes alleged false statements during the course of that particular testimony, they can only be sentenced for one offense. All offenses would merge into that. Again, I'm cheerfully admitting that there is no specific authority in regard to false statements as to counts 3 and 10, but they were both made at the same time. Both of them are alleged to have occurred on January the 5th, and I would contend to the court that the same logic ought to apply. I will go a step further and contend that the same logic ought to apply as to count 8 as well, although that was made on November the 19th of 2010, because it was all part and parcel of the same investigation. Again, I don't have authority for that particular proposition. It is just something I note to the court. I also think counts 1 and 2 ought to merge. Count 1 of the redacted indictment dealt with allegations concerning Mrs. Sneiderman's having done 3 different things. One, destroyed certain messages, text messages and records of phone calls, which he knew was evidence of the crime of murder. Quite frankly, as a matter of law, Judge, that has not been proved. Concealed her romantic relationship with Hemi Newman from police, concealed her knowledge of Hemi Newman's culpability in the murder of Russell Sneiderman. Count 2 says that she concealed certain facts, concealed from the Dunwoody police the existence of a romantic relationship. They overlap. They actually cover the same conduct. They cover the same time frame in question. Count 1 alleges November 18th, 2010 until January 5th of 2011. Count 2 alleges that the event occurred on November 24th of 2010. I believe they ought to merge as well. The state is recommending that they run concurrently, which I do appreciate. Under the circumstances, obviously, I don't think they are agreeing necessarily that they merge, but by virtue of their recommending that they run concurrent, I think we can all concede they pretty much cover the alleged same topic or alleged same activity. All of that's all well and good, but the question is now, what does this court do with this woman? And I think the underlying question is, why on earth has the criminal justice been so hell-bent on destroying this woman's life over the course of the last 3 years? I've been doing this since 1979. I have never seen anything like it. I have never seen the press display such an interest in a case. I have never seen an individual be subjected to the kind of treatment that this woman was treated to. At the conclusion of the Newman trial, both counsel for the defense and state said in public Andrea Sneiderman had some sort of involvement in the murder of her husband. She was indicted on August 2nd of last year. That indictment alleged that she committed the offenses of murder, racketeering, insurance fraud, as well as, I believe, 4 counts of either perjury or false statement. Mr. Geary subsequently left the district attorney's office. A new indictment was returned. That indictment included allegations of murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault. A 3rd indictment was subsequently returned to correct what appeared to be procedural errors in the 2nd. There was no substantive change in the underlying charges that were contained in that indictment, but it again contained allegations of murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault. You were in this court when Mr. Geary, former Chief Assistant District Attorney of the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office, stood up with the TV cameras here and said, "Judge, just so we can make it abundantly clear, we are seeking a settlement." But I think that's the only analogous thing to it. Her life has been absolutely destroyed by virtue of this particular case. I suppose I could stand up here like I do at any time when somebody is sentenced and say, "Let me tell you a little bit about my client," but you already know a lot. She is 37 years old. She was a graduate of the Indiana University in Bloomington. She was happily married to her college sweetheart. Quite frankly, with the exception of Shayna Citron, every witness who testified in this case as to the nature of her relationship with her husband would tell you that she was happily married to Rusty, that she was devoted to Rusty, and she was extraordinarily devoted to her kids. You had the opportunity to hear from the two nannies who testified in this case, Samantha Archer Wright, a young African-American woman, and I believe Alyssa Redmond was the second nanny who came in. They were actually in the house. They have a chance to see the couple interact during the year 2010, to see how they treat each other, to see how they are around their kids, to see how devoted they are to each other and to their kids. Their testimony, Your Honor, I believe spoke volumes. This is a good woman. Say what you will, say what the press will, say what the people who comment will. This is a good woman. She is frightfully intelligent. She is extraordinarily hardworking. She has done what she could to support her husband through the entire course of her life, and now she finds herself in this predicament because a jury has convicted her essentially of lying about what has been termed a romantic involvement. Take a look at the indictment, take a look at the actual counts. That's why we're here, okay? She didn't have anything to do, and the state of Georgia did not allege that she had anything to do when it came to crunch time with the murder of her husband. I appreciate Steve Sneiderman's comments. I appreciate the pain he has gone through, but in the course of those comments, he alluded to the fact that but for Andrea Sneiderman's actions, his brother would be alive today. That is simply wrong. There is absolutely no basis and no reason to believe that. Her husband is dead because Hemi Newman, a self-described delusional individual, and you have sat through his entire trial, Your Honor, who has given a variety of statements here, there, and whatever, but Hemi Newman decided when he realized, and we've heard it from this court, he realized that Andrea Sneiderman was never going to be his, that she was never going to leave her husband, and she was never going to leave her kids. Hemi Newman basically made up his mind to do what he could to try to establish some sort of relationship with him. He is a deluded individual, Your Honor, and Mrs. Sneiderman should not be held accountable for his actions. I suppose there may be a lesson here. I mean, Mrs. Sneiderman gave the name of Hemi Newman to the police on November the 19th. She talked about Hemi Newman again on November the 24th. She went to the Dunwoody Police Department on January the 4th. Unbeknownst to her, the police were in the process of bringing Hemi Newman into the building at that time, but she said, "What's going on? Why haven't you guys brought him in for questioning? I tried to reach him on that particular morning. I couldn't get through to him. Have you looked at him as a suspect?" She testified in the trial. Interesting observation in the paper today. There was an article in the paper, the AJC, and in that article, the paper said one of her decisions that she may live to regret is her decision, her calculated risk in deciding to testify in Hemi Newman's trial. Make no mistake, Judge, she was a witness for the prosecution. As Mr. James has indicated, the issue at that trial was not whether or not Hemi Newman had committed the crime, but Hemi Newman's sanity at the time that he committed the act. You heard the testimony from any number of psychiatrists about whether or not Barry White is a demon, Olivia Newton-John is an angel, conducted some sort of visitation to him, and whether or not he was literally delusional, whether he was out of his mind at that time. Andrea Sneiderman took the witness stand and in response to questions said, "Absolutely not. There has never been any indication that I have ever seen at any time that would suggest that he suffered from delusions, that he was anything other than a rational, logical human being." Her decision, her calculated risk, as you will, to testify was to assist the state of Georgia in trying to convict the man who killed her husband. That's what she chose to do. And because of that, we find ourselves here, quite frankly. Because instead of just focusing on that, Don Geary decided, well, now that I've got you on the witness stand, let me embarrass and humiliate you, and that's exactly what he did. Did it interfere? Did it have any effect on the prosecution of Hemi Newman? No, it did not. It was completely tangential to that subject. It was a low point, quite frankly, on behalf of Mr. Geary, and it was extraordinarily demeaning and cruel to this woman. She has done everything she's supposed to do, and nonetheless finds herself sitting here today as a criminal defendant. You try to think about other individuals who have committed perjury and what has happened to them, because the state is recommending 20 years. I tried to come up with some folks during the course of the evening last night. Somebody told me about Bishop Earl Polk. I don't know if you remember who he was. He was a powerful church figure down in South DeKalb at the Chapel Hill Harvester. Perhaps it became the Cathedral of the Holy Spirit. He apparently was prosecuted in Cobb County for lying about sex and got a sentence of 12 months on probation. Conceitedly, he pled guilty. Barry Bonds, a baseball player, was convicted, I believe, of perjury. I don't recall the exact nature of his sentence, but I believe it contains some element of house arrest, nothing more. A former president of the United States, Bill Clinton, lied under oath about sex. He never even got prosecuted, although he was subsequently disbarred from another number of jurisdictions and never allowed to practice law again. Now we stand here in court, and Ms. Sneiderman stands convicted of having lied about a relationship, and the state of Georgia is asking to send her to prison for 20 years. What will be accomplished by doing that? I mean, you can say it may be for the purpose of rehabilitation. We know better than that. There is no need to rehabilitate this woman. She is a good person. Is it done for the purpose of retribution? Pure and simple, that's it. And I dare say, if it had been a case in which there was no public interest, there would have been no trial. There would have been no time recommended. There would be no sentence of prison imposed. But here's where we are. Because of the circumstances we find because of the circumstances she finds herself in, she's looking at going to prison for a substantial period of time. It doesn't need to happen. Nothing will be achieved by sending this poor woman to prison. She was on house arrest for a year. She has had her life virtually destroyed by the media. She has had people camped out on her doorstep the day after the murder of her husband. She has gone through, quite frankly, one hell of an experience. I'm asking you to give her straight probation. I do that, and I do that with complete sincerity. I have gotten to know this woman over the course of the last year. There are times when I will admit she has been extraordinarily exasperating, but she is a good person. She doesn't need to go to prison. I am asking you from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my soul, don't ruin this woman's life. She has extraordinarily suffered because of what Hemi Newman has done to her, and quite frankly, because of what the criminal justice system has done to her. She's got 2 kids. They're about to turn 8 and 5. If you sentence her to prison, you are sentencing them in some way as well. She doesn't need to go to prison. You have the authority to sentence her under the First Offenders Act. I ask you to do so. There is no way she will ever come back. There is no way she will ever be a threat to the community. There is no way she will ever harm anyone at any point in the future. She has simply suffered more than anyone should have to. Prison is not the answer. Please do not impose a sentence that requires her to go to prison. I'm asking you, give her 5 years probation. She will abide conscientiously by whatever condition you impose. If you want to give her 1,000 hours of community service, so be it. You want to give her whatever condition, so be it. But the woman doesn't need to go into custody. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. Ms. Sneiderman, would you stand, please? At this point in time, you do have a right to make a statement if you wish. I will put you under oath, and you will come up and have a seat and give us a statement if you wish. Mrs. Sneiderman, would you like to give a statement today?
Yes.
All right. You need a minute?
No.
All right, come on up. Deputy Garrett's going to swear you in.
So I'm going to raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give this court should be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Andrea Sneiderman, ANDREASNEIDERMAN.
Mrs. Sneiderman, you have been found guilty of various charges by a jury, and you do have a right to make a statement in your behalf before a sentence is imposed. And I will tell you now that no matter what sentence I impose, you do have a right to appeal whatever sentence that is imposed, and you have 30 days from today's date of sentencing to file your notice of intent to appeal. And whether these lawyers or another lawyer file that on your behalf is completely up to them. But if they are not available, someone will be appointed for that purpose if you do not have legal representation for that purpose. Do you understand that, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, at this point in time, you're more than welcome to make a statement. You don't have to make a statement. It's completely up to you. Would you like to make a statement to me at this point in time?
I would.
You may proceed.
Okay. Your Honor, I'm here to ask for your leniency for the sake of my children, Sophia and Ian. I'm going to try to find the words to describe what it's been like. An indescribable and unimaginable almost 3 years. I met Rusty when I was 18. We fell in love and began our futures together. After having children, I worked from home. And GE was my first job back in an office environment. It was an exciting and terrifying time for me. I didn't know what to expect. At first, I thought my boss, Mr. Newman, was a nice guy, taking an interest in me as his new employee. He was showing and teaching me the business, and I was appreciative. I believed he controlled my career, and I let him, therefore, control my time and too much of my life. I wanted to do well, and I thought being nice to him was the answer. One of my greatest regrets will always be allowing this predator into my life, for not being stronger, for not dispelling his advances sooner. I viewed Mr. Newman as a mentor, a kind and helpful man, a father of 3. I never thought Mr. Newman was capable of murder. As time went on, our friendship grew. So too did my reliance on him at work. The line of appropriate conduct clearly blurred. In hindsight, I should have told Rusty about his advances. I should have quit my job, filed a report with HR, and hid from Mr. Newman. There are so many reasons that I didn't. Yes, I was flattered by what seemed like harmless attention. I thought I could handle him. I thought he was just a man being a man. And the things that I did, like introducing him to Rusty and sending him pictures of our happy family, they all backfired. I didn't know this mild-mannered business executive was capable of killing anyone. In hindsight, knowing now that Mr. Newman is a murderer, I wish I would have immediately opened my GE emails and gone through them, as this court has done, for signs of what can now be seen as an obsession with me. What I remembered as isolated, inappropriate, and insignificant comments tell a different story when read in chronological order, and with the knowledge that Mr. Newman killed my husband. I am shamed by and apologize for my emails. I regret sharing anything personal with this man. Allowing him to get too close to me on an emotional level was a complete betrayal, as I've never shared my personal feelings with any man other than Rusty. But I want to be clear. There was no physical romance between Mr. Newman and me. No sex, no kissing, nothing, other than putting my head on his shoulder to cry and holding his hand on one occasion to comfort him.
I was never leaving my true love, Rusty, and our children. And I made that clear, especially in October of 2010. After November 18th, 2010, when Mr. Newman killed Rusty, I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. My life was misery without Rusty. And if not for my children, I wanted to die. I felt those exact same feelings when visiting Rusty's gravesite with Sophia and Ian last week. For the first time in a year. Despite my state of mind following the murder, I did nothing to obstruct justice in any way. I gave the police names, passwords, access to all of my personal and GE computers and phone information. When asked on November 19th, 2010 if I knew anyone interested in breaking up my family, I said yes, and immediately gave Mr. Newman's name to the police. At the time, I felt great apprehension about giving the name of my boss, someone who I thought was a friend, to the police as a murder suspect. But I was asked a question, and I answered it truthfully. I later took the stand at Mr. Newman's murder trial because I wanted to prove that he was sane. I did not prepare for my testimony. I didn't review any emails, and I ignored all the people who told me not to testify. I was shocked when the prosecution began attacking me and making me the focal point of Mr. Newman's trial. Without an attorney to object to the inappropriate and irrelevant questioning, I fought back and I tried to defend myself. I'm embarrassed when I watch the tape of my testimony, and I feel it does not represent who I am. Emmy Newman has already robbed my children of their father and his love. Rusty is no longer here to play baseball with Ian or to carry Sophia on his shoulders. He will never have the chance to raise his children. He should be at Ian's bar mitzvah. He should be there to walk Sophia down the aisle. He should be there the day they graduate from high school and college. He will never get to sit at the head of the Passover table again or with his grandchildren. He deserved to have that. There is an entire history that's been erased by Mr. Newman, and it will never be. Sophia and Ian desperately need me to help fill that role for them. They have already suffered so much. Since last August, they've had no parent to join them at school events, to take them to the playground, or to go have an ice cream, all because the state wrongly charged me with a murder that I had nothing to do with and would do anything to undo. I want to go back to the life I had with Rusty. This is not a world that I understand anymore. However, I am determined to raise my children to be happy, productive citizens of this country. I'm the person that should be doing that. Sophia and Ian have been punished enough. Please let me go home to my kids. Mr. Newman changed my children's lives forever by killing their father. Please don't make them live without their mother. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. James, anything?
No, sir.
Mr. Clegg, anything else?
No, sir. Nothing at all.
All right, you may come down, ma'am. Thank you. Mr. Clegg, any other witnesses? No, sir. All right. Mr. James, you have the last word.
Your Honor, briefly.
Take as much time as you need.
Yes, sir. First of all, the state would object to first offender treatment in this case. We do not believe, for the aforementioned reasons, I'm not going to go back through the facts again. The court's been here, like the parties have been here. I do not believe this is a case that is appropriate for first offender. Second of all, Your Honor, Mr. Clegg made reference to other cases that have been in the media and around the country, including the President Barry Bonds, Bishop Earl Park. The one thing I would say distinguishing those cases from this one is that those cases did not involve a murder. They involved what some may consider to be those investigations those cases came out of involved various different issues. This case involved a murder investigation with Dunwoody Police Department, where they were trying to ascertain, in fact, who the murderer was, and the key issue was motive, who would have motive to kill her husband, Rusty Sneiderman, the real victim in this case. And number two, once the case got to court, as I've stated before, Your Honor, it involved whether or not the defendant was delusional, the defendant in that case being Hemi Newman, and in large part whether or not he was delusional about his relationship with Mrs. Sneiderman, the defendant in this case. In other words, whether or not he was delusional that they were having sexual relations, that they were having a romantic relationship, or whether or not it in fact happened. So I appreciate counsel's statements that she came and testified that he was in fact sane, but she spent quite a bit of time at the last trial denying that there was any romantic involvement or relationship, and in large part that was evidence, I believe, that the last jury hung their hat on in making a determination about Mr. Newman's mental state. Other than that, Your Honor, I would just state for the record that counsel and myself were in pretrial negotiations before this case. We talked about various recommendations. I made a recommendation of jail time, but it was one that I believe was rather reasonable, and Mrs. Sneiderman, of her own volition, decided to turn that recommendation down, roll the dice and go to trial. And these are the consequences. When you go to trial, if you're convicted, the recommendations oftentimes on behalf of the prosecutor are higher than what they were pre-trial, because what it does not take into account post-trial is an individual taking a responsibility for their actions, an individual standing before the court and the world and saying, I have done wrong, have mercy on me. We're at a point now, Your Honor, where we're post-trial, and the defendant, Andrea Sneiderman, has had an opportunity to speak to the court, and where she stands right now, where she sits right now, she's still not in a place where she can say, I have done wrong, have mercy upon me. She's asked for mercy. Several people in this courtroom have asked for mercy, but no one here has stood up and said, she's done wrong. The defendant has not stood up and said, I've done wrong. I take responsibility for my own actions, and have mercy upon me. And I believe that that is a key component when the court is looking at whether or not to impose a lesser sentence or a more lenient sentence. And I just don't see anything mitigating here, Your Honor. She stands before the court and she's still unwilling to take responsibility for her actions and what she's done. I understand that Hemi Newman killed her husband. There's no doubt about that. There was no doubt about that in 2011 when we had that trial. But she has yet to take responsibility for what she's done. And I would ask the court to consider that when the court imposes sentence.
All right, thank you, Mr. James. All right, lawyers and parties, what I'm going to do is take a brief recess and come back and issue the ruling of the court. Let me just put everyone on notice. The court's not going to tolerate any outbursts one way or the other, and if you cannot control your emotions, you may want to step outside even when I come back and deal with that in your own time. But the court will take zero tolerance to any outbursts. No clapping, screaming, no outbursts whatsoever. Deputy Gear, we're going to be on a brief recess. All rise.